If you've been anywhere near a newsfeed, a boardroom, or honestly, just a dinner table lately, you already know the debate around artificial intelligence in 2026 is absolutely deafening. It's noisy, it's highly polarizing, and frankly, it can feel like total chaos. Every single day brings a new headline about AI either saving the world or completely destroying it. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to cut right through that noise. We're taking the actual source materials, the research and the data, and we're mapping out exactly who is saying what and why it actually matters to you. When you're right in the thick of it, the AI debate just feels like 1,000 fragmented arguments shouting over each other, doesn't it? But here's the secret. It's not chaos. It is actually a highly structured ecosystem of competing worldviews, where it feels like random internet arguments are actually incredibly well-defined camps. And these camps aren't just sitting around debating philosophy. They are directly shaping corporate strategy, they're driving billions in venture capital, and they're literally writing national policy. Understanding this map is absolutely crucial to understanding our future. Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of it all, we're zooming out and breaking this map down into 4 clear levels. We'll start with the extremes, move on to the human impact, then look at the regulatory divide, and finally, we'll zoom way out to the geopolitical board.
All right, part 1, the extremes. We're talking optimists, skeptics, and doomers.
We've got to start with the loudest voices in the room, right? The AI optimists. A lot of them like to call themselves accelerationists or techno-optimists, and they see AI as this once-in-a-century technology. For figures like OpenAI's Sam Altman or Mark Andreessen, AI isn't just some helpful tool. It is the engine for unprecedented human flourishing. They argue for exponential progress. Their core belief is that we need to build and deploy this as fast as humanly possible to create societal abundance, and that putting up regulatory barriers right now is a massive mistake. But you flip that coin, and the pushback splinters into 2 totally different directions. Over on one side, you've got the AI skeptics, folks like Gary Marcus. They look at all this and go, hold on, this is mostly marketing hype, hallucinations, and crazy high costs. But then, on the other side, you have the AI doomers, and they definitely don't think it's hype. In fact, they think it's so powerful it might literally end humanity. They fear a complete loss of control and a massive misalignment between AI's goals and basic human survival.
Now, what's really interesting about this perspective is how absolute the position is. This isn't just fringe internet chatter. We're talking about heavyweights here, the so-called godfathers of AI, like Geoffrey Hinton, and researchers like Eliezer Yudkowsky. Their position is crystal clear. The existential risk is so high that development simply must be slowed down or put under heavy international control until we can mathematically guarantee it's safe.
So, you've got billionaires racing to build a utopia, skeptics kind of rolling their eyes, and pioneers warning of literal human extinction. But wait a minute, what about tomorrow morning? What about the immediate impact on everyday people, right now? Let's ground this conversation a bit.
That brings us to part 2, the human impact. This is all about society, labor, and truth. Stepping away from those wild theoretical futures, we find camps laser-focused on the right now. First up, the pragmatists. Think researchers like Fei-Fei Li. They absolutely acknowledge the serious risks, but they don't want to throw out the incredible benefits either. They're calling for proportionate, smart, evidence-based governments. Right alongside them is the societal impact and labor camp. Represented by ethicists like Timnit Gebru and labor advocates like the Writers Guild, this camp is ringing the alarm bell on immediate harms. They are hyper-focused on massive job displacement, the theft of intellectual property, algorithmic bias, and just the sheer concentration of power sitting in the hands of a few big tech companies.
And building right on top of that societal concern is the information integrity camp. For experts like Tristan Harris and Maria Ressa, the biggest immediate threat isn't some robot uprising, it's the total collapse of shared reality. Generative AI has made creating hyper-realistic deepfakes and disinformation campaigns ridiculously cheap and easy. This camp is warning about severe election interference and this modern crisis of knowing. Because think about it, if we literally can't agree on what's real and what's AI-generated, democracy itself starts to fracture.
Which leads us to part 3, the regulatory divide. Basically, how on earth do we write the rules for this?
The governance camp is deeply, deeply split. On one hand, you have Subcamp A advocating for a light-touch approach. This is generally favored by industry leaders and certain Republican lawmakers. They're arguing for minimal federal rules so we don't accidentally stifle innovation and lose our competitive edge. But on the flip side, Subcamp B takes a protective stance. Supported by state attorneys general, civil society groups, and certain Democrats, they are fighting for much stronger, enforceable rules based on actual risk.
allowing states the flexibility to adapt protections as needed. It's your classic battle, innovation versus precaution.
Okay, let's move on and see how this builds into our final section, Part 4, the geopolitical board, the US-China strategic race.
If we zoom all the way out to our final and honestly most consequential layer, we find the US-China strategic race camp. This worldview looks at everything we've just talked about through one single lens: great power competition. Strongly supported by the current U.S. federal government and the Trump administration framing, this camp views AI as a pure zero-sum game. The core belief here is that the United States absolutely must win this race decisively if it wants to maintain global technological, economic, and military superiority.
And you can really feel the urgency here. Representative John Moulinar, who chairs the House Select Committee, argues that the U.S. isn't just competing in some friendly free market. It's actively defending its edge against state-driven theft and massive foreign investment. The primary goal for this camp is pretty straightforward: prevent China from setting global AI standards or achieving dominance through military-civil fusion.
And look, this worldview isn't just theory anymore. It is rapidly becoming the law of the land. The federal government is deploying some incredibly heavy policy mechanisms right now to maintain the American lead. We've got America's AI Action Plan with its literal winning the race framework. We're seeing Executive Order 14179 actively stripping away barriers to domestic AI leadership. Add to that drastically tightened export controls on advanced chips to choke off rival supply lines, and high-profile congressional hearings focused on protecting our AI edge. This is a massive, coordinated mobilization of government resources, and it's driven entirely by this strategic race narrative.
So we started with what felt like a noisy, chaotic public debate, and we've organized it into a pretty clear map. We've seen the optimists pushing the gas pedal to the floor, the doomers slamming on the brakes, the ethicists defending our fundamental rights, and the rulemakers locked in this massive geopolitical chess match. But the ultimate question, the one I really want to leave you with today, is this. In a world deeply divided by these camps, who actually decides our AI future? And more importantly, now that you can see the whole ecosystem clearly, which camp are you in? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the noise and always keep looking for the structure beneath it.